So this woman now has a major gift of healing on her life. Major. Like she said, they've prayed for thousands upon thousands of cancer patients that have been healed of cancer. But 41 were stage 4, gee, I'm so sorry, go home and die. And through her personally, they are now completely, totally healed. Yeah, so you can look her up on YouTube and watch some of the things. They're absolutely insane. And we considered it the greatest honor to be at a conference that she was at, but she was just, oh, hey, Sarah. I'm playing Andrea now. Whoop, squirrel, squirrel. So we were at this conference, and she was one of the people. And so we're going to have some of the ladies come up that went and share a little bit about what God did. I'll tell you mine first because I have the microphone. I've been around the supernatural for quite a while. People lay hands on me and I don't go down unless they're like pushing you, and I hate that. But a long time ago, the Lord just said, learn to drink standing up. I was like, okay. So I just don't go down. 2.5 years ago, I went down. I told the woman, a good friend of mine, actually, Lori Singleton, had a conference, and I said, everyone she laid hands on was out. And I went up and I said, I'd really like for you to pray for me as well, but I don't want you to feel bad because I never go down. Next thing I know, I hear her saying, somebody get a camera and take a picture of her not going down. That I was instantly in heaven with the Lord. And anyway, I digress. I won't go into all of that. But I don't go down. I went to this conference, and my best friend was up at the front. They pray over her, and Joanne goes over. Boom! Patty's out on the floor. And so I'm up there videoing, and then I hear her say, where's Christy Hicks Hill? Because they use our Facebook name when we registered. And so I said, right here. And she comes over, and she starts saying things over me. And then she goes to pray for me, and it was like a lightning bolt hit my chest 3 times. It was like, bam, bam, bam. And I don't do this and fall out like everyone else in the room. I was like, and I mean, I am not joking. I'm down on the ground. She is ministering things there's no way she could know, and she does like us. She is not a 5-minute prayer person, let's go on to the next. She took her time, and her whole ministry team is full of love, and they minister from a place of love. I mean, it was almost like a mirror of this ministry. And the next thing I know, one of her dear sweet young ladies is sitting beside me, and she goes, sweetie, here's one of your eyelashes. And then she goes, oh, here's the other one. So I'm laying there going, what am I supposed to do with these? I'm trying to comprehend the greatness of God and what just happened, and now I've got lashes to hold on to. It was crazy. And then the other girl, whom I hope you guys get a chance to meet, her name is Sherelle. And one of the things I love about her, is she'll do Facebook posts, and her grammar is way off. You can tell she is not educated. We found out this weekend she doesn't have a high school diploma, and God is using this girl. It's like this great big banner that said, how dare you say I'm too whatever to be used by God. She sees angels. And I hear her, I'm literally back on a back row praying for somebody and loving on someone that was pretty, anyway. And I hear her say, is there anybody here that has a cyst or a tumor under their left arm? Well, about 2 months ago, I had a cyst, and it got to be about the size of one of those big shooter marbles. You know, most of you guys are probably too young to know what a marble is, let alone a shooter. A bogey. Anyway, it was really big. And I went to the doctor. It had a big bruise around it. And the doctor said that they couldn't lance it, and it would not go away. If they lanced it, there's too many muscles right there, and it would risk me not having full mobility of my arms or whatever, all this stuff. And he said, but more than likely, you're going to have several of them come back. Then come and see me, and we'll talk about what our next options are. It wasn't malignant or anything, but we have intercessors that pray for the people here. So I was like, I'm not worried. And they have been praying. Well, she calls that out, and I'm in the back, and I'm like, maybe I ought to go up there. And two people jump up and go up there, and then she points at one, and she says, you, come up here. And so I thought, well, she needed her. I didn't even go up. And then later, I don't even know if it was that session or another session, the whole front is packed, and the girl's up there again, and she said, anybody with tumors or cysts, come on up here. Well, I had a sleeveless top on and a jacket, so I went to Gail. And I said, will you help me find that cyst? It's right here. I said, I can't find it, and I just want to know, if it's gotten smaller. She's digging around, and she's like, it's not there. I'm like, yeah, it is. You can tell because it's got the big bruise on it. She's going, I'm telling you, it's not there. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't believe her. I go to Patty, who had seen the cyst. I said, will you find that for me? I want to see if it's gone down at all. And Patty's like, it's not there. I went, you are kidding me. And she looked, and it's gone. I didn't even go up, and God completely dissolved a cyst. Is that cool? Ladies, we're going to have y'all come up one at a time and share actually, y'all can all come on up and then share them one at a time. And then we'll start telling these as well.
So, did you see that? I had my mic extended to her, and she went to Christy and took her mic,
I don't like to go first. Christy, do you want us to do theirs first or ours first? Okay. So I went to this conference with expectations for God's manifested glory. I was like, God, I'm sick of not getting there where I want to be with you, not being in your presence, not feeling your presence. And so I had text Casey Joe, and we were asking each other what we wanted from this conference. And I was like, all I want is God's manifested glory. That's it. I had laser beam focus. That's all I wanted. And so I go to this conference. It's amazing. I mean, we could stand here for days telling you everything that we saw happen. It was just amazing. But I struggled. I mean, I had warfare like nobody's business. I wasn't footloose and fancy free like a lot of other people. I felt like I was walking around with the ceiling right here everywhere I went. I mean, I was struggling hard, but I was like, God, listen, I've already put my faith out there for what I want. And I am smart enough to know that you can't lose if you don't quit. And I'm pretty stubborn. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep believing God. I'm going to keep believing God. And I mean, when I would worship, it felt like the ceiling was right here. When I would pray, it felt like the ceiling was right here. And I was like, God, what is going on? And it came to the last night. And I was frustrated, but you're fighting yourself. You don't want to be frustrated, but you're frustrated, but you want something from God, but it's not happening. And I got up and went to the bathroom stall, and me and Jesus had a good prayer meeting at the bathroom stall. Because I said, Lord, I don't know what else to do. I've prayed, I've worshiped, I've done everything I know. I've rebuked, I've bound, I've loosed, I've opened, I've done everything that I know to do. Because that's what intercessors do, right? We hit that thing from every angle. And so I had done everything that I knew to do. And I was like, God, all I know to do is just ask you to, whatever this thing is that's over me, to set that thing aside and just give me what I ask for. I mean, it was such a unspiritual prayer. And I left the bathroom. I would love to say I felt glorious and different. I did not. I went back into worship, and I just decided I'm just going to pour out. All I can do is pour out to God. That's all I can do. And I don't remember exactly how things happened after that. All I remember Joanne saying was, because I was really worshiping the Lord, I just remember her saying, if you start feeling the fire of God on your body, come up here. So you do a check, right? You're like, do I feel it? So I was like, I don't feel fire, but but I wanted to so bad. So all your nerve endings come alive, right? Every breeze that blows by, you're like, is that the fire? So that's what I was doing. I was on ultra, like, hypersensitivity mode. And all of a sudden, I mean, the fire, you don't have to try to feel it when it comes on you. I mean, it hit me like nobody's business. I don't know how long went by. It could have been 10 seconds, or I don't know how long went by. But I felt the fire come on me. And when I opened my eyes, I heard her saying, if you're feeling it, you need to get up here. So I ran up there. I don't remember what happened next other than my body was convulsing. And they just kept saying more and more and more. And I'm like thinking, I can't take it anymore, you know? And I'm kind of like Christy. Like, I don't like to just go down just to be, there's no courtesy drops over here, you know? And I mean, the glory of God came on me. I hit the ground. My body was just convulsing. And I'm talking about, I could feel my head hitting the floor. It didn't hurt, but I could feel it hitting the floor. And I laid in God's glory. And I was literally pinned. I was shaking. And then it kind of subsided a little bit. And I laid in the glory for like almost an hour. And I don't know how long I'd been laying there, but I was like, I could hear people leaving. And I was like, okay, maybe I ought to check if I could get up. And I opened my eyes and I tried to move my shoulders. I was like, this ain't happening. So I was just laying there in God's glory, and I just decided to not be in a hurry. And this lady came up. It's so funny, the perspective when you're looking at people from the floor. But this lady came up and leaned over me, and she said, honey, you've got gold dust all over your face. And I was like, well, then you start focus. You want to see the gold dust, you know? And so I was laying there and I was like, God, I don't want to focus on the gold dust, but that's really cool. I want to see it. And so in my spirit, I started saying, Lord, would you send Christy over here? Because she takes pictures like nobody's business. And I literally, I could barely move my mouth. The glory was on me so heavy. But I just remember being like, God, please send Christy over here. And she didn't come. And then another lady, actually it was Mary Jean, I think, wherever she's at, walked over here and looked at me and said something about gold dust being on my face. And then one more person came by and said my face was glowing. But I'm telling you, I don't know. I can't stand here and say exactly what God did. I just know I'm different. And I know that now that's been imparted to me to give out to other people. So I'm excited for you guys, because there's a group of us up here that are pretty fired up. And so I'm excited to see what God's going to do tonight. Amen.
I have my own. Okay. Well, I felt like I was appointed to go to Mustang, Oklahoma. I had a big expectation that I knew that God was going to do something, but I did not know what he was going to do. But on my paper, I just wrote, I just want to experience God in a greater way, because I've been around a long time. And I've seen the glory of God that looked like a cloud that comes into the room. But my heart was just, God, I just want to experience you in a different way. And I was like, Andrea, at first it was like, okay, I'm here, I'm praising, I'm worshiping, I'm loving God the whole time. And I just decided, I'm just going to keep doing that. I wasn't feeling a whole lot, but I thought, you know what, I'm just going to do this, because I know that his glory is here, his presence is here, and I know he's doing something even if I don't feel it. I know he's doing something. And so the first night went by, and then we got to the second night. And let me go back up. And before we got to the second night, I had a phone call the second day. And it was a friend of mine, and she was calling me, telling me that her daughter's colon had collapsed. And immediately I just had this, I thought, I need to pray. And so I just started praying in the room, and I was praying and I was praying, and I was commanding different stuff. And it's like, it's enough of this. God is a healer, and you don't have to accept this any longer. And this needs to be over. And when you go to the hospital or to the doctor, they're going to verify that it is over, it's done away with. And they had taken the CAT scans and everything, and it's like they showed that this is what it was. And so when I got off and I ministered to her mom, and when we got off the phone, and we went to the service on the second night, before we was out of service and she had gone to the hospital, she said, I couldn't wait to text you They did another CAT scan, and it shows that nothing is there, no infection or anything is there. But even though when I was in the service, I wasn't feeling anything, but I knew that God had did something in my life. And then, you know, her mom was so excited of about what had taken place. And I know that God is truly real, and that he is working, and that he is a healer, and that he is a deliverer. And we seen it all while we was there. We seen miracle after miracle after miracle. We sensed and felt the presence of God. Gold dust was on people's hands. I kept looking. It's like, then I'd start back worshiping God, because, you know, I'm like, okay, people's getting gold dust. I want to get some on mine. But I didn't get it, but I had the pleasure of seeing other people's hands, because I started going looking. Let me see. Let me see. I mean, if I can't receive it myself, I just wanted to see it. You know? I didn't think they were lying, but I wanted to see it for myself, and truly, it was gold dust.
Amen. There's so many, I'm sure everyone can say that. There's so many things. One of my favorite things that happened, two, I'll share two. The first thing, kind of like Andrea, I was on the struggle bus. I was driving the struggle bus because I was like, Lord, I don't know what's caused. Is it distraction? Is it frustration? Like, are my emotions in the way? So you start going through the things of like, okay, I take down every distraction. I take down every emotion. I leave everything at the door. At one moment, I walked literally back to the door. And I was like, Lord, I'm leaving everything right here. And I'm walking back in. And so I walked back. This was on the first night. Walked back into worship. I was like, I'm just going to worship freely. I'm just going to do what I know to do. I'm going to embrace his presence because he's here, obviously. And so in that moment that night, it was like just a release of everything I kind of carried with me. It's just like, Lord, I know you're here. You care. So I'm going to leave everything. The next day, backtrack, before we even went to the first night, I had seen a group of women in the parking lot of a restaurant, not the hotel we were staying at, not the church, but a restaurant down the street. And I had seen them, and they said hi. We said hi, like literally for 2 seconds. Well, the next day, on Saturday, I think, the woman who's up at the front, Joanne, that you guys saw in the video, after she ministered so much to Christy was on the floor. I was videoing, crying, all the things. And she was like, where's that woman, Casey? And so I'm standing there, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And so I walk up to the front, and she starts prophesying and speaking life and speaking all these things over me. And when you do it and this is just being real, when you're in that and you minister to other people, you're kind of a part of that. You're like, when's my turn? And I told Christy even that the Lord was showing me in my heart that sometimes we think of refreshing as receiving, and it's really not. Refreshing from the Lord can be giving out of his abundance to other people as well. Ministering to hearts, ministering to people, being just cooperative with the Holy Spirit. So in that moment, I was like, okay, Lord, I'm going to receive. And she's speaking all these things. Well, then the next night was when all of the worship, when what Andrea was talking about, all the worship and everyone was kind of laid out. I'm the same as Christy. I don't fall, and I will not give you a courtesy fall. And in transparency, there's been moments where I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Is that real? Is it biblical? And so I've had moments, just out of honesty, I've had moments with the Lord saying, what is that? Like, what is that? And so standing there, I wasn't falling. 2 different women came by me, and they were like, more, Lord, more, Lord. I'm like, yes, Lord, more. And so I was ready to go. I was like, I know people are back there. I can feel them. So I was ready. And I'm like, Lord, my expectation has been here. Like, what's happening? So I just shut up, and I was like, I'm just going to stand here. And another woman comes, and she touches me, and I feel fire all over my body. Still don't fall. And which sometimes that, for me in the past, I took it as like, oh, well, you missed out, you know. And I remember even with Christy on the way home, we were talking about it, and I was like, you know, I don't really know what is coming out of that. And she shared what she said about sometimes you just have to learn to drink standing up. But after that, when I went back to my seat, actually, Christy was like massaging my shoulders for like what felt like an hour, but I know it wasn't an hour. But it was the love of a mother, and it was the love that I knew I could receive from the Lord in that moment. And I looked down at my hands, and this woman sits beside me. I've never met her. She goes, have you looked at your hands? I'm like, no. So I look at my hands and there's gold dust all over my hands. And then I hear other people saying, it's on mine too, it's on mine. And then I saw people looking at Andrea on the floor. And in that moment, I'm like, Lord, never let me contain your glory to what everyone else is doing. And never let me close the box in my mind that it has to look like what everyone else is experiencing. And so for me, my biggest takeaway was, Lord, however you want to encounter me, do it. However you want to show your presence, do it. However you want to let your glory fall on me, do it. If I don't fall, perfect. If I do fall, let someone be behind me, you know? So for me, it was like, you can experience all of God's glory and his goodness however he wants you to, you know? So that was beautiful.